The boss's daughter froze when she heard the cleaning lady playing her missing sister's song. The afternoon light fell over the Caldwell mansion like a golden shroud, filtering through the stained glass windows and painting the marble floors in shades of amber and rose. Isabella walked through the corridors absently, her heels clicking against the cold stone, lost in thoughts that had become her constant companions over the years, thoughts of what might have been, of a life that should have been whole but had been fractured instead. She was heading toward the library when she heard it. A melody. Soft. Delicate. Impossible. Her feet stopped moving. Her breath caught in her throat. The world seemed to tilt on its axis as the notes drifted through the air, wrapping around her like a memory she'd tried so hard to forget. No, it can't be. It was that song. The one her father used to play when she and Sophia were little, before everything fell apart. Before that terrible afternoon 18 years ago when her twin sister vanished from a crowded marketplace, stolen by hands Isabella never saw, leaving behind only questions that never got answered and a silence that never quite went away. Nocturne of the Moon. Her father had composed it for them when they were barely old enough to understand what music meant. Isabella could still remember sitting on the piano bench beside Sophia, their small legs dangling, giggling as their father's fingers danced across the keys. She remembered Sophia's hand in hers, warm and real and there. And then, one day, Sophia wasn't there anymore. Isabella's hands trembled as she moved toward the sound. The music was coming from the sitting room, the one with the grand piano that hadn't been touched in nearly 2 decades. Her father had covered it with a white sheet after Sophia disappeared, unable to bear the sight of it, unable to play the songs he'd written for 2 daughters when only one remained, but someone was playing it now. Isabella pushed the door open slowly, afraid that any sudden movement might shatter whatever impossible dream this was. Through the gap, she saw her. A young woman sat at the piano, her fingers moving across the keys with a grace that seemed almost otherworldly. She wore a simple gray uniform, the kind the household staff wore, and her dark hair was pulled back in a practical bun. Her hands were rough, the hands of someone who worked hard for a living, not the delicate hands of a trained pianist. Yet the music that flowed from beneath her fingers was flawless, each note precise and filled with an emotion that made Isabella's chest ache. But it wasn't the music that made Isabella's legs go weak. It wasn't the impossible familiarity of the melody. It was the woman's face. Isabella gripped the doorframe, her knuckles white. She felt like she was looking into a mirror, or maybe looking back through time. The woman had the same deep brown eyes, the same curve of the nose, the same delicate lips. They were identical, absolutely, impossibly identical. The music stopped. The woman turned, startled, and for a moment their eyes met. Isabella saw her own shock reflected back at her, saw the same confusion, the same inexplicable recognition. "I'm sorry, Miss Isabella," the woman said quickly, standing up from the bench. Her voice trembled. "I shouldn't have been playing, I heard about the piano, and I couldn't help myself. It won't happen again. I promise." Isabella couldn't speak. She couldn't move. She could only stare at this stranger who wore her face, who just played a song that no one but her family should have known. "Who are you?" Isabella finally managed to whisper. "I'm Emily, miss, the new housekeeper. Mrs. Margaret hired me 3 weeks ago. I'm so sorry, Where did you learn that song?" Emily looked confused. I don't know, honestly. I've always known it, ever since I can remember. The woman who raised me used to say I'd hum it in my sleep when I was little." Isabella felt the world spinning. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening. "I need to get my father," she heard herself say. "Stay here, please. Don't go anywhere." She turned and ran, her composed demeanor shattering completely as she raced through the corridors toward her father's study. She burst through the door without knocking, something she hadn't done since she was a child. Richard Caldwell looked up from his desk, startled at 48. He was still a handsome man, though grief had carved deep lines into his face and turned his hair prematurely gray at the temples. He'd built an empire after Sophia's disappearance, throwing himself into work with a desperate intensity, as if staying busy enough could make him forget what he'd lost. "Isabella, what's wrong? Dad, you need to come with me, right now." Something in her voice made him stand immediately. He'd learned to read his daughter's moods over the years, had become an expert in all the ways grief could wear a person down, but he'd never seen her look quite like this before. Pale, shaking, terrified and hopeful all at once. What happened? The new housekeeper. She was playing the piano. She was playing that song. Richard's face went white. For a moment, he looked like he might collapse. His hand reached for the desk to steady himself. "That's not possible," he said, but his voice was barely a whisper. "No one knows that song. I never published it. I never played it after." "I know," Isabella said, "but she knows it, Dad. And there's something else. You need to see her." Richard moved slowly, like a man walking toward his own execution. They made their way back to the sitting room in silence, the weight of 18 years pressing down on them with every step. Emily was still there, standing awkwardly by the piano, looking like she wanted to disappear into the wallpaper. When Richard entered, she straightened up, clearly nervous about facing the master of the house. But Richard wasn't looking at her posture or her uniform. He was looking at her face. Isabella watched her father's expression transform, watched shock give way to something that looked like pain and hope mixed together in equal measure. His lips moved, but no sound came out. "Where did you learn that song?" he finally asked, his voice rough. I don't know, sir," Emily said, wringing her hands. "I've always just known it. The woman who raised me, Rose. Her name was Rose. She said I used to play it on any surface I could find when I was little. Tables, countertops, anything. She saved up to get me piano lessons when I was 7, and the teacher said I already knew how to play. Said it was the strangest thing she'd ever seen." "Who raised you?" Richard asked, moving closer. "Where are you from?" "I grew up in a small town upstate." "Sir, Rose found me at an orphanage when I was 7. Before that," Emily shook her head. "I don't really remember much. Just flashes sometimes. Dreams, maybe. A big house with gardens. 2 little girls laughing. But they're not real memories. Just impressions." Richard looked at Isabella. She saw tears in his eyes for the first time in years. From the doorway, neither of them noticed Margaret watching with cold, calculating eyes. The silence that followed Emily's words felt heavy enough to crush them all. Richard stood frozen, his eyes searching every detail of the young woman's face as if trying to solve a puzzle that had haunted him for 18 years. Isabella watched her father, recognizing the war happening behind his eyes, the desperate hope fighting against the terror of being disappointed again. "Emily," Richard said carefully, his voice steadier than Isabella expected. "I'd like to ask you some questions, if that's all right. Nothing bad, I promise. I need to understand." Emily nodded, clearly confused but compliant. "Of course, Mr. Caldwell. The orphanage where Rose found you. Do you remember its name? St. Catherine's, I think it was in Riverside County, but I was only there for about 2 years before Rose adopted me. Everything before that is just blank." Richard's jaw tightened. Isabella knew what he was thinking. Riverside County was only 40 miles from where Sophia had been taken. And Rose, she passed away 2 years ago, sir. Cancer. Emily's voice softened with genuine grief. "She was a good woman, poor but kind. She worked 3 jobs to keep us fed, to pay for my piano lessons even when we could barely afford groceries." "I'm sorry for your loss," Richard said, and he meant it. Despite everything racing through his mind, he could still feel compassion for this young woman's pain. "Do you have any belongings from your childhood? Anything Rose might have saved?" Emily shook her head. "Not much. We never had money for keepsakes," Rose said. "She got me with just the clothes on my back, a little yellow dress that was too fancy for an orphanage kid. She kept it in a box under her bed. Said she always wondered where I came from." Isabella's breath caught. She remembered that dress. Sophia had been wearing it the day she disappeared. A yellow sundress with white flowers that their mother had bought them for their 5th birthday. Isabella's had been blue. Richard heard it too. His hand went to his chest, pressing hard as if trying to keep his heart from breaking through his ribs. "Would you be willing to do something for me, Emily?" he asked. "Would you let me take a DNA sample? Just a simple cheek swab I have. I have reasons for asking. Personal reasons. I promise I'll explain everything once I have the results." Emily looked bewildered. I guess so, but I don't understand what." "You don't need to understand right now," Isabella interjected gently, moving closer. "Please, Emily, just trust us. Can you do that?" There was something in Isabella's eyes, a pleading desperation that Emily couldn't ignore. She nodded slowly. "Okay, if it's important to you." Richard made a phone call right there, his hands shaking as he dialed. Within 30 minutes, Dr. Harris arrived, an old family friend and the Caldwells' private physician. He asked no questions, simply swabbed Emily's cheek with professional efficiency and promised Richard the results within a week after Emily returned to her duties. Looking thoroughly confused, Richard collapsed into the nearest chair. Isabella sat beside him, taking his hand. "It's her," Isabella whispered. "Dad, I know it's her. I can feel it." "Don't," Richard said sharply, then softened his tone. "Don't let yourself hope." "Not yet. We've been down this road before, remember?" Isabella did remember. 3 years after Sophia's disappearance, a girl matching her description had been found in a foster home in Nevada. They'd flown out immediately, their hearts full of desperate hope. But the girl wasn't Sophia, just another lost child who looked vaguely similar. The disappointment had nearly destroyed them both. "This is different," Isabella insisted. "The song, Dad. How could she know the song?" "I don't know," Richard admitted, "but I won't let myself believe until I see proof. I can't survive losing her again." From the hallway, Margaret had heard everything. She stood with her back pressed against the wall, her mind racing. 25 years she'd worked for this family. 25 years of loyalty, of service, of being the perfect trusted employee. And beneath it all, 25 years of carrying a secret so dark it would destroy everything. She'd facilitated Sophia's kidnapping, not directly. She'd never dirtied her own hands, but she'd provided information to the people who took her. The family's schedule, their security gaps, the perfect moment to strike. In return, she'd received $20,000, money that had seemed like a fortune to a woman drowning in gambling debts. The guilt had eaten at her for years, but she'd learned to live with it. She'd watched Richard suffer, watched Isabella grow up with a ghost for a sister, and she'd told herself it was too late to make it right. That confession would only cause more pain. But now Emily was here, and everything Margaret had buried was threatening to surface. She couldn't let that happen. Margaret moved through the mansion with practiced ease, her mind already forming a plan. She'd worked too hard, sacrificed too much of her conscience to let a simple housekeeper destroy her life now. If Emily really was Sophia, and Margaret's instincts told her she was, then the girl had to be discredited before those DNA results came back. She started small, whispers to the other staff members during their afternoon break. "Have you noticed how Mr. Caldwell and Miss Isabella are acting around that new girl?" she said to Michael, the chauffeur, as they shared coffee in the staff kitchen. "It's strange, don't you think? She's been here 3 weeks and suddenly she's getting special attention." Michael shrugged. "Haven't really thought about it." "Well, think about it," Margaret pressed. "A poor girl from nowhere shows up, starts playing the family piano like she owns the place, and now Mr. Caldwell is practically fawning over her. It seems suspicious to me, like maybe she knows something she shouldn't, like maybe she's trying to manipulate them." The seed was planted. Margaret moved on to the cook, the gardener, the other housekeepers. Each conversation was carefully crafted, each insinuation subtle enough to seem like genuine concern rather than malicious gossip. By dinner time, the whispers had spread. The staff watched Emily differently now, with suspicion instead of indifference. Meanwhile, Isabella found Emily in one of the guest bedrooms, dusting furniture with quiet efficiency. She'd changed out of the gray uniform into her personal clothes, simple jeans and a faded t-shirt that had clearly been worn too many times. "Emily," Isabella said softly from the doorway, "can I talk to you for a minute?" Emily turned, startled. "Of course, Miss Isabella, is something wrong? Did I do something?" "No, nothing wrong," Isabella assured her. I wanted to apologize if we made you uncomfortable earlier. My father and I, we can be a bit intense sometimes." "It's okay," Emily said, though she still looked confused. "I just don't understand what's going on. Why would Mr. Caldwell want my DNA?" Isabella sat on the edge of the bed, patting the space beside her. Emily hesitated, then sat down, maintaining a respectful distance. "Can I tell you something?" Isabella asked. "Something personal?" Emily nodded. "I had a twin sister. Her name was Sophia, when we were 5. She was taken from us, kidnapped at a marketplace. We never found her." Emily's eyes widened. "Oh my God. I'm so sorry, that's terrible. The thing is," Isabella continued, her voice barely above a whisper, "you look exactly like me, exactly like how Sophia would look now, and you know a song that only our family knew. So my father, he needs to know. He needs to know if you're here." The words hung in the air between them. Emily's face had gone pale. "But that's impossible. I can't be." "Maybe not," Isabella said gently. "Maybe it's just an incredible coincidence. But what if it's not? What if you are her, Emily? What if you're my sister?" Emily stood up abruptly, her hands shaking. "I need to think. I need some air." She left quickly, leaving Isabella alone in the room, hoping desperately that she hadn't pushed too hard, too fast. Emily couldn't sleep that night. She lay in her small room in the staff quarters, staring at the ceiling as moonlight filtered through the thin curtains. Isabella's words kept echoing in her mind, refusing to let her rest. What if you're my sister? It was absurd, impossible. She was Emily, plain, poor Emily who'd grown up in foster care and barely made ends meet. She wasn't some missing heiress from a wealthy family. Those things didn't happen in real life. But then why did the mansion feel so familiar? Why did walking through those marble corridors sometimes give her the strangest sense of déjà vu, like she'd been there before in another lifetime? And the piano. God, the piano. She'd never been able to explain how she knew that song. Rose used to ask her about it constantly, fascinated and a little disturbed by the way Emily's fingers would move through the melody, even when there was no instrument nearby, tapping on tables, on windowsills, on her own knees, like muscle memory she'd been born with. Emily closed her eyes, willing herself to remember something, anything from before the orphanage. But there was only darkness and fragments. A big house with tall windows, sunlight streaming through glass, the smell of roses in summer, and voices. 2 girls laughing, their sounds identical, intertwined like music. She sat up suddenly, her heart pounding. Were those real memories, or just dreams her mind had constructed from Isabella's story? The next morning, Emily came downstairs to find the atmosphere in the mansion had shifted. The other staff members who'd been friendly enough before now watched her with cool, assessing eyes. When she entered the kitchen for breakfast, the conversation stopped abruptly. "Morning," she said hesitantly. The cook, Mrs. Peters, gave her a tight smile. "Morning, Emily. There's coffee if you want it." But her tone was different, distant. Emily poured herself a cup with trembling hands and left quickly, feeling the weight of their stares on her back. Margaret watched this with satisfaction from the doorway. The seeds of doubt had taken root nicely by the time those DNA results came back. If they came back positive, the entire household would already believe Emily was a con artist. It would be her word against everyone else's, but Margaret knew she needed more than whispers. She needed concrete evidence that would destroy Emily's credibility completely. That afternoon, while Emily was cleaning the West Wing, Margaret slipped into her room. She moved quickly and efficiently, her hands steady despite the pounding of her heart. From her pocket, she withdrew a delicate pearl necklace, the one that had belonged to Richard's late wife, Catherine. It was kept in a locked display case in Richard's study, but Margaret had keys to everything in this house. She tucked the necklace under Emily's pillow, then rearranged things slightly to make it look like someone had tried to hide it hastily. Perfect tomorrow. She'd discover it during a routine inspection and raise the alarm. A thief in the household, a manipulative young woman preying on a grief-stricken family. Meanwhile, Isabella found Emily in the library, dusting shelves with mechanical precision. She looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes. "Couldn't sleep?" Isabella asked gently. Emily jumped, nearly dropping her duster. "Miss Isabella, I didn't hear you come in." "Just Isabella, please, we're the same age, for crying out loud." She moved closer, studying Emily's face. Every time she looked at her, the resemblance struck her all over again. "I wanted to show you something. Will you come with me?" Emily hesitated, then nodded. She followed Isabella through the corridors to a part of the mansion she'd never been allowed to clean, the family wing. Isabella stopped at a door at the end of the hall and pushed it open. "This was our playroom," she said softly. Mine and Sophia's. Dad couldn't bear to change it after she disappeared. The room was frozen in time. 2 small beds with matching pink comforters, shelves lined with toys and books, a child-sized table set for a tea party that never finished, and on the walls, dozens of photographs. Emily stepped inside slowly, as if walking into a dream. Her eyes went to the photos. 2 identical little girls with dark hair and bright smiles, caught in moments of pure childhood joy, building sand castles, blowing out birthday candles, sitting at a piano with their father. "That's us," Isabella said, pointing to a large frame. "Our 5th birthday, 2 months before Sophia was taken." Emily moved closer to the photograph. The girls wore matching dresses, one blue, one yellow. They held hands, their faces pressed together, grinning at the camera like they didn't have a care in the world. The yellow dress, the one Rose had kept in a box under her bed, saying it was too nice for an orphanage kid. Emily's vision blurred. The room seemed to tilt and shift around her. Suddenly, she wasn't looking at the photograph anymore. She was in it. She could feel the scratchy lace of the dress against her skin, could smell the birthday cake with its strawberry frosting, could hear her sister, giggling beside her as their mother took the picture. "Are you okay?" Isabella's voice seemed to come from very far away. "Emily, talk to me. I remember this," Emily whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I remember the cake. It had strawberries on it, and the dresses. They were itchy. We complained about them all day." Isabella's breath caught. "How could you possibly know that?" "I don't know." Emily turned to her, eyes wide with fear and confusion. "I don't know, but I can see it. I can feel it. It's like someone locked a door in my head and now it's opening." Over the next few days, more fragments surfaced. Emily would be doing something mundane, folding laundry, washing dishes, and suddenly a memory would hit her like a physical blow. The garden. She remembered the garden, remembered running through it with her sister, their identical laughs echoing off the stone walls. The piano room. She remembered sitting on the bench, her feet not quite reaching the floor, while her father's hands guided hers across the keys. But she also remembered fear, remembered a hand clamping over her mouth in a crowded place, remembered being pulled away while she screamed for her daddy. For Bella, remembered crying in a dark room, asking why nobody came to find her. The memories were fragmentary, confusing, painful. Emily started having headaches that left her curled up in bed, whimpering. She stopped eating properly. The other staff members noticed but attributed it to guilt. Obviously, the stress of her con was catching up with her. Richard noticed too. He watched her from a distance, torn between his desperate need to comfort her and his fear of letting himself believe. The DNA results were due any day now. Until then, he had to maintain control, had to protect himself from hope. But late at night, alone in his study, he took out the old videos of his daughters, watched 5-year-old Sophia and Isabella playing together, their voices high and sweet, watched Sophia at the piano, her tiny fingers pecking out simple melodies while she hummed along. He paused the video on her face, pulled up a current photo of Emily on his phone, held them side by side. They were the same person. He knew it in his bones, knew it in his soul, but knowing and proving were different things, and he'd learned the hard way that certainty could be a cruel liar. On Thursday afternoon, exactly 6 days after the DNA sample was taken, Dr. Harris's car pulled up to the mansion. Richard met him at the door, his face pale, his hands clenched into fists. "You have the results." It wasn't a question. Dr. Harris nodded, holding up a manila envelope. "I do, Richard. Before I give this to you, I need you to prepare yourself. Whatever's in here, it's going to change everything." Richard took the envelope with shaking hands. He stared at it for a long moment, this thin paper barrier between his current reality and whatever truth waited on the other side. "Do you want me to stay while you read it?" Dr. Harris asked gently. "No, I need to do this alone." Richard walked to his study, closed the door, and sat at his desk. For several minutes, he just held the envelope, feeling its weight. Then, with a deep breath that felt like it might be his last, he tore it open. His eyes scanned the page once, twice, 3 times, because surely he was reading it wrong. Surely this couldn't be real. DNA match probability, 99.9% conclusion. Subject is biological child of Richard Caldwell. The paper slipped from his fingers. Richard made a sound, something between a sob and a laugh, and buried his face in his hands. 18 years. 18 years of searching, of hoping, of grieving, and she'd been alive all along. She'd found her way back to him. His daughter was home. But before Richard could stand, before he could run to find Emily and tell her everything, his office door burst open. Margaret stood there, her face flushed with false urgency, holding something in her hand. "Mr. Caldwell, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but we have a serious problem. I found your late wife's pearl necklace hidden in Emily's room." Richard looked up at Margaret, his face still wet with tears. The DNA results spread across his desk. For a moment, he couldn't process her words. His mind was too full of the truth he'd just discovered. Too overwhelmed by the reality that his daughter, his Sophia, had been living under his roof for 3 weeks without him knowing. "What did you say?" he asked, his voice rough. Margaret held up the pearl necklace, letting it dangle from her fingers. The gems caught the light, each one a perfect orb that had once rested against his wife's throat. Catherine had worn it on their wedding day, had treasured it above all her other jewelry. After her death from cancer 6 years ago, Richard had kept it in a locked case, unable to part with it, but unable to look at it either. "I found this in Emily's room," Margaret repeated, her voice carrying just the right note of regretful concern. "Hidden under her pillow, I was doing a routine inspection of the staff quarters and—" "Get out!" Margaret blinked. "Sir, get out of my office now." Richard's voice was low, dangerous. He stood slowly, his hands gripping the edge of his desk. "And take that necklace with you. Put it back where it belongs." "But Mr. Caldwell, surely you understand the seriousness of—" "I said get out." Richard's voice cracked like a whip. "I don't have time for this right now. We'll discuss it later." Margaret's face flushed with anger, but she maintained her composure. "Of course, sir, as you wish." She turned and left, closing the door a bit harder than necessary. Richard waited until her footsteps faded, then grabbed the DNA results and went looking for Isabella. He found her in the conservatory, tending to the roses their mother had planted years ago. She looked up when she heard his footsteps, and whatever she saw in his face made her freeze. "Dad!" He held out the papers with shaking hands. Isabella took them, her eyes scanning the page, and then her knees gave out. Richard caught her, and they sank to the ground together, clinging to each other as they'd done so many times before, when grief threatened to swallow them whole. But this wasn't grief. This was joy so intense it hurt. "She's alive," Isabella sobbed. "She's been here. She's been here all along." I know. Richard held his daughter, his mind racing. "We need to tell her. We need to tell her right now." "Wait." Isabella pulled back, wiping her eyes. "We can't just spring this on her. Think about what this means, Dad. Her entire life has been a lie. Everything she thought she knew about herself, about who she is. It's all been ripped away. We need to be careful. We need to do this right." Richard knew she was correct, but every fiber of his being screamed at him to find Sophia, to hold her, to tell her she was his daughter and she was loved and she was home. 18 years of loss couldn't be contained by logic or caution, but before he could respond, his phone rang. "Dr. Harris." "Richard, I forgot to mention something," the doctor said. "Those DNA results. You should know that Margaret saw them when I arrived. She asked what I was doing there, and I'm afraid I wasn't as discreet as I should have been. She knows why I came." Richard's blood ran cold. "She knows about the test. She saw the envelope. She knows it was DNA results. I didn't tell her the outcome, but thank you for letting me know." Richard hung up and looked at Isabella. "Margaret knows." Isabella's eyes widened. "The necklace. Dad? She came to you with that story about the necklace right after Dr. Harris left, didn't she?" Richard nodded slowly, understanding dawning. "She's trying to discredit Emily, to make us doubt her before we even have a chance to process the truth. But why would she—" Isabella stopped, her face going pale. "Unless she already knew. Unless she's known all along." They stared at each other, the implications hanging heavy in the air between them. If Margaret knew where Sophia had been, if she'd known for 18 years and said nothing, we need to be smart about this. Richard said, his voice hardening. "We can't let her know that we suspect her. Not yet. Not until we have proof." "What about Emily? What about Sophia?" Isabella asked. "We can't leave her in the dark. Not when Margaret is actively trying to sabotage her." Richard ran his hands through his hair, thinking, "We tell her tonight, privately, and we make sure Margaret doesn't know that we know." But Margaret was already 3 steps ahead. In her room, she sat on her bed, hands trembling as she tried to think. Dr. Harris wouldn't have come for a social visit. The DNA results were back, and judging by Richard's reaction, throwing her out of his office when she'd presented him with evidence of theft, they'd been positive. Emily was Sophia Caldwell, and now Richard knew it. Margaret had spent 18 years building a life on a lie, convincing herself that what she'd done wasn't really that bad. The people who took Sophia had promised her a good home, a loving family. They'd paid Margaret $20,000, money she desperately needed to pay off gambling debts that would have gotten her killed if she hadn't cleared them. It was supposed to be a victimless crime. Sophia would have a new family. The Caldwells would move on eventually, and Margaret would be safe. But the Caldwells never moved on. Richard had spent millions on the search, had hired private investigators, had appeared on news programs begging for his daughter's return, and Margaret had watched it all, the guilt eating at her slowly, day by day, year by year. But she'd convinced herself it was too late to confess, that revealing the truth now would only cause more pain. Now that pain was coming anyway, and it would destroy her, unless she acted first. Margaret made a decision. She would need to escalate. The planted necklace wasn't enough. Richard had dismissed it immediately. She needed something bigger, something public, something that would force Richard to choose between believing his staff or believing a girl who'd appeared out of nowhere claiming to be his daughter. She picked up her phone and made a call to Michael, the chauffeur. "I need you to do something for me," she said quietly, "and I need you to keep it between us." That evening, Emily was summoned to Richard's private study. She went reluctantly, still confused by everything happening around her, still reeling from the fractured memories that kept surfacing at the worst moments. The other staff members watched her go with knowing looks, clearly convinced she was about to be fired for the theft Margaret had reported. Isabella was there too, standing by the window when Emily entered. They both turned to look at her with expressions she couldn't read. "Please sit down," Richard said gently, gesturing to a chair. Emily sat, her hands folded in her lap. "Sir, if this is about the necklace, I swear I didn't—" "This isn't about the necklace," Richard interrupted. "Emily, I need to tell you something. Something important, and I need you to listen carefully." Emily nodded, her heart pounding. Richard took a deep breath. "3 weeks ago, you came to work at this house. You played a song on the piano, a song I composed for my daughters when they were children, a song that no one else in the world knew. And when we saw you, Isabella and I, we saw something impossible. We saw Sophia." "I don't understand," Emily whispered. "I had Dr. Harris take a DNA sample from you. The results came back today." Richard's voice broke. "Emily, you're not Emily. Or rather, you are. But you're also someone else. You're my daughter. You're Sophia Caldwell." The room spun. Emily gripped the arms of her chair, her knuckles white. That's not possible. I can't be." Isabella moved to kneel beside her chair, taking Emily's hands in hers. "You are. The DNA doesn't lie. You're my sister, my twin sister. Someone took you from us 18 years ago, and somehow, impossibly, you found your way back." Emily looked between them, seeing the truth in their faces, seeing the tears, seeing the desperate hope, and something inside her, something that had always felt broken and incomplete, suddenly clicked into place. "The yellow dress," she whispered. "The one Rose kept. She said I was wearing it when they found me at the orphanage." "You were wearing it when you were taken," Richard said. "From the marketplace. You were 5 years old." "I remember," Emily said, the memories flooding back now, no longer fragments, but a complete picture. "I remember the market. I remember someone grabbing me. I remember screaming for you, for Daddy, for Bella." She looked at Isabella, really looked at her, and saw her own face looking back, saw the sister she'd lost, saw the life that had been stolen from her. "You never stopped looking for me," she said. It wasn't a question. Never, Richard said, his voice firm despite his tears. Not for a single day. Emily, Sophia, stood on shaking legs. Richard opened his arms, and she walked into them, letting herself be held by her father for the first time in 18 years. Isabella wrapped her arms around both of them, and they stood there, a family reunited. As the sun set outside the window, none of them noticed Margaret watching from the shadows of the hallway, her face twisted with something between rage and terror. The next few days should have been filled with joy. Sophia. She was trying to think of herself as Sophia now, though Emily still felt more natural on her tongue, spent hours with her father and sister, piecing together the fragments of a life she'd lost. They showed her old videos, told her stories, filled in the gaps that 18 years had carved into her memory. But the mansion felt different now, colder, more hostile. The staff had noticed the change immediately. Emily, the lowly housekeeper, was suddenly being treated like family. She ate meals with the Caldwells instead of in the staff kitchen. She'd moved from her small room in the servants' quarters to one of the guest suites. Richard had even taken her shopping for new clothes, replacing her threadbare wardrobe with items that actually fit and didn't have holes in them. The whispers started almost immediately. "She's got her claws in good," Sophia overheard Mrs. Peters saying in the kitchen one morning. "Playing the long game, that one. Probably researched the family, learned about the missing daughter, and now she's cashing in. But the resemblance," another maid started to say. "Plastic surgery maybe, or just good genes and better acting. You really think some poor girl from the middle of nowhere just happens to be the boss's long-lost daughter? Come on, we weren't born yesterday." Sophia had left without getting the coffee she'd come for, her stomach churning. She knew they didn't believe her. How could they? The story was too perfect, too convenient. Even she had trouble believing it sometimes. Despite the DNA results, despite the memories that kept flooding back, Margaret watched it all unfold with cold satisfaction. The seeds she'd planted were bearing fruit. The staff was divided, suspicious, ready to believe the worst. Now she just needed to push a little harder. She found her opportunity 2 days later. Richard had announced a small family dinner to celebrate Sophia's return. Just them, Dr. Harris, and a few close friends who'd supported them through the years of searching. Nothing extravagant, just an intimate gathering to acknowledge the miracle they'd been given. Margaret offered to oversee the preparations personally. Richard, still too overwhelmed with emotion to think clearly about household logistics, had agreed gratefully that afternoon. Margaret pulled Michael aside in the garage. "I need you to do something for me tonight," she said quietly. During the dinner, Michael looked uncomfortable. He'd been the Caldwells' driver for 15 years, and while he respected Margaret, something about her recent behavior had been setting off alarm bells in his mind. "What kind of something?" "I need you to make sure certain items go missing from Mr. Caldwell's study. Small things, valuable things, and I need you to make sure they end up in Emily's." She caught herself. "In Sophia's room." "You want me to frame her?" Michael said flatly. "I want you to expose her," Margaret corrected. "Michael, think about it. This girl shows up out of nowhere, plays a song anyone could have learned from the internet, and suddenly she's Richard Caldwell's daughter. She's playing them. She's taking advantage of their grief. And if we don't stop her, she's going to destroy this family." Michael shook his head. "I don't know, Margaret. The DNA results can be faked, can be manipulated, Michael. I've worked for this family for 25 years. Do you really think I'd do anything to hurt them?" She put her hand on his arm, her eyes pleading. "Please, help me protect them." Michael wavered. He'd always trusted Margaret's judgment, and there was something about the whole situation that did seem too good to be true. "What do you need me to do?" Meanwhile, Sophia sat in the garden with Isabella, trying to process everything that was happening. The memories were coming faster now, each one a small piece of the puzzle clicking into place. She remembered this bench, remembered sitting here with her sister on summer afternoons, making crowns out of dandelions and pretending to be princesses. "It's overwhelming, isn't it?" Isabella said softly, watching her sister's face. "I can't imagine what you're going through. It's like I'm two people," Sophia admitted. "Part of me is still Emily, the girl who grew up poor, who worked hard for everything, who never quite fit in anywhere. And part of me is Sophia, Who remembers this garden and that piano? And you, I don't know how to be both. You don't have to choose, Isabella said. You're allowed to be all of it. Emily made you who you are. Sophia is where you came from. Neither one is wrong. Sophia smiled, grateful for her sister's understanding, but the smile faded when she saw the way one of the gardeners was looking at her. Cold, assessing, judgmental. They all think I'm a fraud, she said quietly. Isabella followed her gaze. Not all of them. And the ones who matter know the truth. Do they? Sometimes I wonder if even Dad really believes it. If he's just so desperate to have Sophia back that he's willing to believe I'm her, even if I'm not. Stop, Isabella said firmly. You are her. The DNA proved it. The memories prove it. I prove it. She took Sophia's hand. I knew you the second I saw you. Not because you look like me, but because I felt you. That's not something you can fake. That evening, the dinner began pleasantly enough. Dr. Harris arrived first, followed by the Caldwell's attorney, Mr. Peterson, and two of Richard's oldest friends, the Montgomerys. They'd all been there during the darkest days after Sophia's disappearance, and seeing her now, alive, home, moved several of them to tears. Richard stood to make a toast, his hand shaking slightly as he raised his glass. 18 years ago, I lost my daughter. I lost hope. I lost my ability to feel joy, but somehow, through a miracle I still don't fully understand, she found her way back to us. He looked at Sophia, his eyes shining. Welcome home, sweetheart. Welcome home. They drank, and the conversation flowed, and for a moment, Sophia let herself believe that everything might actually be okay. Then Margaret entered the dining room, her face pale, her hands trembling. Mr. Caldwell, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but we have a serious situation. Items have gone missing from your study, valuable items, and... She paused, her reluctance perfectly performed. They've been found in Miss Sophia's room. The table went silent. Every eye turned to Sophia, who sat frozen in her chair, her face draining of color. That's impossible, Richard said. There must be some mistake. I wish there were, sir. But Michael found them when he was bringing up her luggage. A Rolex watch, 2 gold cufflinks, and a first edition book from your collection. They were hidden in her closet. I didn't... Sophia started, but her voice came out as barely a whisper. I didn't take anything. I wouldn't... Of course you wouldn't, Isabella said fiercely, standing up. This is obviously a setup, Margaret. Who told you to search her room? No one told me, Margaret said, her voice hurt. I was simply doing my job, and I take no pleasure in this, Miss Isabella. But we can't ignore evidence just because it's inconvenient. Mr. Montgomery cleared his throat uncomfortably. Richard, perhaps we should postpone this celebration until this matter is cleared up. There's nothing to clear up, Richard said, his voice hard. My daughter didn't steal anything, and I won't entertain accusations that say otherwise. But sir, Margaret pressed, the evidence was planted, Richard finished. By you, I suspect. Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out? The necklace? Now this? You're trying to discredit her? Margaret's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something cold and desperate underneath. I'm trying to protect this family from a con artist. She's not a con artist, Isabella shouted. She's my sister. We have DNA proof. DNA can be manipulated, Margaret said. Tests can be faked. I've seen it before, sir. I'm begging you. Think about what you're doing. This girl could be anyone. She could be working with criminals, with people who want to exploit your grief. Enough. Richard's voice cracked like thunder. He stood, his face flushed with anger. Margaret, you're fired. Pack your things and get out of my house. Tonight. The room erupted. Dr. Harris tried to calm Richard down. Mrs. Montgomery gasped, and Sophia sat in the middle of it all, watching her world, both the new one and the fragile remnants of the old, crumble around her. Margaret's face went white, then red. You're making a mistake, a terrible mistake, and when you realize what she really is, it'll be too late. She turned and stalked out of the room, leaving chaos in her wake. The dinner party dissolved quickly after that, guests making awkward excuses and hurried exits. Soon, it was just Richard, Isabella, and Sophia, sitting in the wreckage of what should have been a celebration. I'm sorry, Sophia whispered, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. No, Richard said firmly, moving to embrace her. This is not your fault. None of this is your fault. Margaret did this, not you. But as Sophia cried into her father's shoulder, she couldn't shake the feeling that Margaret was right about one thing. Richard was making a mistake, not about her identity. The DNA didn't lie, but about thinking that finding her would fix everything that was broken. Some things, once shattered, could never be fully whole again. Margaret didn't leave quietly. She locked herself in her room in the staff quarters and refused to come out. Ignored Richard's increasingly angry demands that she vacate the premises immediately. By midnight, exhausted and unwilling to create more of a scene in front of Sophia, Richard gave up. She can stay tonight, he told Isabella grimly. But tomorrow morning, I'm calling the police if she's not gone. But Margaret had no intention of leaving. Not yet. Not when she still had one card left to play. She waited until 2 a.m., when the house was silent and dark. Then she slipped out of her room and made her way to the garage, where Michael was just finishing his shift. He looked up, surprised to see her. Thought you'd be gone by now, he said. I need your help. One last time. Margaret's voice was desperate now, the careful control she'd maintained for so long finally cracking. Please, Michael. I know what I'm asking, but you have to trust me. That girl is dangerous. Michael shook his head. I already helped you plant those items in her room, and look where it got us, mister. Caldwell's convinced you're the villain here. Maybe you are. I'm not, Margaret insisted. But if you won't help me, then at least hear me out. Give me that much. Michael sighed. Fine. Talk. 18 years ago, I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. Margaret's hands trembled. I was in debt. Bad debt. The kind where people break your legs if you don't pay up. And someone approached me with an offer. Information about the Caldwell family's schedule in exchange for $20,000. I didn't know they were planning to kidnap Sophia. I swear I didn't know. Michael stared at her, horror dawning on his face. You helped them take her. I gave them information, that's all. I thought they were just planning a robbery. By the time I realized what they'd actually done, it was too late. The girl was gone, and if I'd confessed, I'd have gone to prison, and the debt collectors would have killed me anyway. So you just lived with it for 18 years. You watched that family suffer and said nothing. What choice did I have? Margaret's voice rose. It was too late to fix it. All I could do was try to make it up to them by being the best employee they'd ever had, by taking care of them, by framing an innocent girl when she turned out to be the daughter you helped steal. Michael finished coldly. You're not trying to protect them, Margaret. You're trying to protect yourself. Maybe both can be true, Margaret said. Michael, listen to me. If that girl really is Sophia, then someone is going to start asking questions about how she disappeared. Someone is going to investigate the kidnapping again. And when they do, they're going to find the money trail. They're going to find me. Good, Michael said. You deserve whatever you get. He turned to leave, but Margaret grabbed his arm. Wait, please. There's one more thing you should know. That girl, Emily, Sophia, whatever she's calling herself, she had help getting into this house. Don't you think it's suspicious that she just happened to apply for a job here? That she just happened to play that song? Someone is pulling the strings. Someone who knows about my involvement, who's using her to expose me and destroy this family in the process. Michael pulled his arm free. You're paranoid, and you're done. Stay away from that girl, Margaret. Stay away from all of them. He left. Margaret stood alone in the garage, her last ally gone, her last hope extinguished. But she wasn't finished yet. If she was going down, she'd take Emily with her. The next morning, Richard had scheduled a press conference. He'd debated it with his advisors for hours, but ultimately decided that the truth needed to be public. Too many people knew pieces of the story already. Staff members, dinner guests, Dr. Harris. Better to control the narrative than let rumors spread unchecked. Isabella thought it was too soon, that Sophia needed more time to adjust before being thrust into the spotlight. But Sophia herself had insisted. I'm tired of hiding, she'd said. I'm tired of people thinking I'm a fraud. Let's tell the truth and be done with it. So at 10 a.m., reporters and cameras crowded into the mansion's main hall. Richard stood at a podium, Sophia and Isabella flanking him on either side. He'd prepared a statement, working on it until dawn, trying to find words adequate for a miracle. 18 years ago. My daughter Sophia was taken from me, he began, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. For 18 years I searched for her. I never gave up hope that she was alive, that somehow, someday she'd come home. 3 weeks ago, that hope was realized. He gestured to Sophia. This is my daughter. DNA testing has confirmed with 99.9% certainty that she is Sophia Caldwell. I don't know all the details of what happened to her, how she survived, or how she found her way back to us. We're still piecing that together, but I know this. She's home, and nothing is going to take her away from me again. The reporters erupted with questions. How did she survive? Where had she been? Who took her? Richard fielded what he could, but there were too many gaps, too many unknowns. Sophia stood silent beside him, overwhelmed by the cameras and voices. And then, from the back of the room, Margaret appeared. She'd dressed carefully for this. Not in her usual staff uniform, but in a nice dress, her hair done, her makeup perfect. She looked like a concerned citizen, not a disgraced employee. Mr. Caldwell, she called out, her voice carrying over the chaos. May I say something? Richard's face darkened. Absolutely not, security. Remove her. But the reporters had already turned their cameras toward her. Sensing conflict, sensing a story, Margaret spoke quickly before security could reach her. My name is Margaret Hayes. I've worked for the Caldwell family for 25 years, and I'm here to tell you that this girl is not Sophia Caldwell. She's a fraud. An imposter who's taking advantage of a grieving father's desperation. The room exploded. Reporters shouted questions at both Richard and Margaret. Cameras flashed. Sophia stood frozen, feeling the weight of hundreds of eyes on her, feeling her carefully reconstructed world cracking apart again. That's a lie, Isabella shouted, stepping in front of her sister protectively. We have DNA evidence, scientific proof. DNA tests can be manipulated, Margaret said calmly. And I have proof that she's not who she claims to be. I have witnesses who'll testify that she researched this family extensively before applying for a job here, that she practiced that piano song for weeks, that she had plastic surgery to look more like Miss Isabella. That's insane, Richard roared. Security, get her out of here now. But Margaret wasn't done. She reached into her purse and pulled out a folder, holding it up for the cameras to see. I have medical records showing Emily Thompson. That's her real name. Underwent facial reconstruction surgery 2 years ago. I have testimony from her former neighbors saying she was obsessed with the Caldwell case. And I have evidence that she stole valuable items from this house during her employment. Items that were found hidden in her room. It was all lies. All fabrications. But it didn't matter. The damage was done. The reporters were eating it up, already composing headlines in their minds. Imposter infiltrates wealthy family. Con artist preys on father's grief. Fake heiress exposed. Sophia felt the panic rising in her chest. The room was too bright, too loud. The faces around her blurred together. She couldn't breathe. Stop, she whispered, but no one heard her. Stop! Isabella's voice cut through the chaos. She stood in front of the podium, her face flushed with fury. All of you, shut up and listen. This woman, she pointed at Margaret, is lying. She's lying because she's been fired, because she tried to frame my sister, because she's desperate and vindictive. But we have proof, scientific, undeniable proof that Sophia is who she says she is. Then show us, a reporter called out. Show us the DNA results. Richard hesitated. Medical records were private, confidential. Releasing them would be a violation of Sophia's privacy, would open them up to even more scrutiny. But looking at his daughter's pale, terrified face, he knew he didn't have a choice. Fine, he said. Dr. Harris, please bring the documentation. Dr. Harris, who'd been standing in the wings, came forward with the official lab results. He held them up to the cameras, explaining the science, the methodology, the absolute certainty of the findings. But even as he spoke, Sophia could see the doubt in some of the reporters' faces, could see them wondering if money had changed hands, if the results had been doctored, if this was all an elaborate hoax. Margaret saw it too. She smiled. a cold, triumphant smile. "DNA evidence or not," she said, "that girl is hiding something, and I'm going to prove it." Security finally reached her and escorted her out, but her words lingered like poison in the air. The press conference ended in chaos. Reporters surrounded Sophia, shouting questions, demanding answers. Isabella and Richard formed a protective barrier around her, pushing through the crowd toward the stairs. In the safety of Richard's study, with the door locked and the curtains drawn, Sophia finally broke down. "She's right," she sobbed. "Not about the fraud part, but about me hiding something. I can feel it. There's something in my memory, something I can't quite reach. What if I did something terrible? What if I'm not the person you think I am?" "You're my daughter," Richard said firmly, holding her close. "That's all that matters. Whatever happened to you, whatever you had to do to survive, none of it changes who you are." But even as he said it, he wondered what other secrets were buried in those 18 lost years, and whether the truth, when it finally emerged, would bring them together or tear them apart forever. The fallout from the press conference was immediate and brutal. By evening, the story had gone viral. Social media exploded with opinions, theories, accusations. Half the internet believed Sophia was a con artist. The other half believed she was genuine, but that Richard was being manipulated. Nobody seemed to consider that maybe, just maybe, the truth was exactly what it appeared to be. Richard's phone rang constantly. Reporters, lawyers, business associates all wanting statements, explanations, damage control. He ignored them all. His priority was Sophia, who'd retreated to her room and refused to come out. Isabella sat outside her sister's door, talking to her through the wood. "Please, just let me in. We can get through this together. Go away. Bella." Sophia's voice was muffled, thick with tears. "This is my fault. I should never have come here. I should have just stayed, Emily, and left you all alone." "Don't say that. Don't ever say that." But Sophia didn't respond. Isabella leaned her head against the door, frustrated and helpless. She'd just gotten her sister back. She couldn't lose her again. Downstairs, Richard paced his study like a caged animal. Mr. Peterson, his attorney, sat in one of the leather chairs, reviewing documents with a grim expression. "We can sue her for defamation," he said. "Margaret made demonstrably false claims in a public forum. We have grounds." "I don't care about lawsuits," Richard snapped. "I care about protecting my daughter." "Then you need to get ahead of this story. Push back harder. Show more evidence. The DNA results alone aren't enough. People are too cynical. We need something undeniable." "Like what?" "Witnesses. People who knew Sophia before she was taken. Her pediatrician, her preschool teachers. Anyone who can verify identifying marks, behaviors, anything unique to her that this woman shares." Richard stopped pacing. "There is something. A birthmark. Sophia had a small birthmark on her left shoulder blade, shaped like a crescent moon. Catherine used to call it her moon mark. And Emily has it. I don't know." "I haven't," Richard trailed off, realizing how absurd it sounded. He'd confirmed his daughter's identity through DNA, but hadn't checked for the physical mark that had been there since birth. "I'll ask Dr. Harris to verify it," he said, quietly, away from the cameras. But before he could make the call, the doorbell rang. Not the polite chime they used for expected guests, but the insistent buzzing of someone who wouldn't take no for an answer. Richard heard raised voices in the foyer, one of them Margaret's. He rushed out to find Margaret standing in the entrance hall, flanked by 2 police officers. "What's going on?" Richard demanded. One of the officers, a middle-aged man with a tired face, held up a badge. "Detective Morrison, sir. We've received a formal complaint from Ms. Hayes alleging theft and fraud. We need to ask Miss Thompson some questions. Her name is Sophia Caldwell, and she hasn't stolen anything. That's for us to determine," Morrison said. "Sir, we can do this easy, or we can do this hard. Your choice." Richard's jaw clenched. "Fine, but my attorney will be present for any questioning. Of course, is Miss Thompson here?" Before Richard could answer, Sophia appeared at the top of the stairs. She looked small and frightened, her eyes red from crying, but she held her head up. "I'm here," she said, "and I'll answer your questions." They gathered in the living room. Sophia, Richard, Isabella, Mr. Peterson, Detective Morrison, and his younger partner, Officer Chen. Margaret hovered in the doorway until Richard shot her a look that could have melted steel. "You're not welcome here," he said coldly. "Officers, if she's made her complaint, she can wait outside." Margaret left reluctantly, shooting Sophia a look of pure venom as she went. Detective Morrison pulled out a notebook. "Miss Thompson?" "Caldwell," Sophia corrected quietly. "My name is Sophia Caldwell, right? Well, Miss Hayes has made some serious allegations. She claims you stole valuable items from this household, that you falsified your identity to gain employment here, and that you're engaged in a conspiracy to defraud Mr. Caldwell. Those allegations are ridiculous," Mr. Peterson said. "My client has done nothing wrong." "I'm sure, but we still need to ask the questions." Morrison looked at Sophia. "How did you come to work at this house?" Sophia took a breath, forcing herself to stay calm. "I saw an ad for a housekeeping position. I applied. Mrs. Hayes interviewed me and hired me.